Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience. And today we bring you the story of the Pittsburgh Pipers, or rather, the Pittsburgh Condors. They actually went by both names at different times during their team history, and their team history did not last very long. They only lasted for 5 seasons as a team and then folded at the end of the 1972 ABA season, but not from a lack of effort. This is the third part in an occasional series on the lost teams of the ABA. In total, the ABA had 12 different franchises play. 4 of those teams still exist today as NBA teams. They are the Brooklyn Nets, Indiana Pacers, Denver Nuggets, and San Antonio Spurs. The other 8 teams that played in the ABA have all gone into basketball extinction. Those teams are virtually never discussed unless the conversations happens to be between ABA historians. So, the team that we are covering today began their existence as the Pittsburgh Pipers. On paper, it was a great place to have a team. It was a large city without an NBA team to compete with it. That meant that the Pipers could draw in all of the basketball fans in that city, and they really went after it. And as far as the ABA goes, they had a completely stacked team. The Pipers had 4 players who all averaged 20 points per game or more. They averaged 112 points per game as a team, and that made them the highest scoring team in the ABA. And the ABA was all about scoring. And the one thing that most fans love to see is scoring. Now, when I was doing my research for the story, I asked myself, how in the world did the Pipers land so many scores? Let's take 2 of the players, Chico Vaughn and Art Heyman. Both jumped over to the ABA from the NBA when the ABA started. Now, they were already above average NBA players, averaging around 10 points per game in the NBA, but they were able to double that in the ABA. Now, part of it was the increased number of possessions that the typical ABA team had over an NBA team. Perhaps the defense was lacking in the ABA. I mean, nobody ever accused the ABA of being too defensive, but they found a place where they could fill it up and do it consistently. And the other 2 high scores for the Pipers were Charlie Williams and Connie Hawkins. Now, these are 2 players that sort of just landed in their laps. Both Williams and Hawkins had been banned by the NBA for allegedly shaving points while they were in college. Now, that means that they were accused of accepting bribes in exchange for manipulating the scores of their college games to benefit gamblers. The problem was that neither was convicted or even went to trial. Charges were never filed against either player, but just the accusation of it was enough for the NBA to ban both players, even though they were legitimate NBA talents. Hawkins was accused of point shaving when he was at the University of Iowa. The problem was that Hawkins was only on campus for a couple of months and never even played in a game. In any case, both Williams and Hawkins played in smaller pro leagues to make some money, but when the ABA announced itself as a brand new pro league offering the largest salaries in pro basketball, both players jumped at the chance. The Pipers were a high-flying bunch. They had a legitimate Hall of Fame caliber player in Hawkins leading the way with nearly 27 points per game. He was clearly the best player in the entire league that first year. Now, the Pipers finished with the best record in the league and won the very first ABA championship. In the first round, they swept the Indiana Pacers 3-0. Then they dispatched the Minnesota Muskies 4-1. And in the ABA finals, they went back and forth to win Game 7 against the New Orleans Buccaneers. They had the best basketball team in the ABA, but things were not so great behind the scenes. The owner, Gabe Rubin, did not care for his coach, Vince Cazzetta. He even once said that the team did not win the championship because of Cazzetta, but rather despite him. So Cazzetta was fired at the end of that first season. And I'm not sure what this guy was looking at. The guy just coached the team to the best record in the league. He won the championship and the players enjoyed playing for him. Why do you replace that? Well, Gabe Rubin was not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer when it came to running a basketball team. And we'll get into more of that right after this break.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with the story of the Pittsburgh Pipers of the old ABA. Now, after they won that first championship in ABA history, the team decided to relocate. The team that was formerly in Minnesota, the Muskies, had just moved down to Miami. So the Pipers owner, Gabe Rubin, decided to move his team to the just vacated city of Minneapolis. Part of it was pressure from the league office. George Mikan, the Hall of Famer and legend of the old Minneapolis Lakers, happened to be the commissioner of the ABA, and he really wanted for the city of Minneapolis to have a team. When the Muskies left Minneapolis after that first season of the league, Mikan put pressure on Rubin to move his team into Minneapolis. The ABA league offices were also located in Minneapolis, and how good would it look for a league to be headquartered in one city and then not even have one of its own teams in that same city? The ABA headquarters were supposed to be in New York City, but when the group of ABA owners pursued Mikan to be their commissioner, he said he would do it under one condition, that the headquarters be located in Minneapolis where Mikan was already living full-time. Mikan did not want to move to New York for the job, so he made the job move to him. So the team renamed themselves the Minnesota Pipers, and they brought back the core of the team, Hawkins, Williams, Heyman, and Vaughn. But the new coach was something else. The new coach was Jim Harding, who had never coached professional basketball before. Now, he had coached at several different colleges and universities. Now, that in and of itself is not a horrible thing. There have been a number of college coaches who have moved into NBA coaching jobs and have performed quite well. But most successful coaches also understand that coaching professionals is not the same thing as coaching college players, and unfortunately for the Pipers, that new coach, Jim Harding, did not understand this distinction. He held triple practices during the preseason. He played the starters over 40 minutes during preseason games, and he would scream at the players if they lost a preseason game. The season had not even started, and several of the players were already suffering injuries from overuse. He even tried making the players wear shirts and ties on the road because that is what his college teams did. During All-Star Weekend of that season, the league held a banquet the night before the game to honor the players that were selected to be there as part of the All-Star game. Charlie Williams and Connie Hawkins were both chosen, but missed the banquet over a miscommunication about what time the banquet was supposed to start. Well, Coach Harding lost his cool because he felt that the players made him look bad. The owner, Gabe Rubin, tried to calm him down, and they got into a fist fight right there in the middle of the banquet with the rest of the ABA looking on. Rubin immediately fired Harding on the spot, and both men had bruises and scratches on their faces. Now, this was not one of those fake fights where two guys square up and then get separated before anything happens. These two were truly going at it before getting pulled apart, but at least the owner of the team had his players back, but that would not help when it came to playing games. Rubin decided to hire Hall of Famer and former Minneapolis Laker Vern Mickelson to be the new coach. He only lasted 12 games before he had enough of the ABA and quit. So Rubin rehired Jim Harding, who coached only 7 games before he got fired again. The owner seemed like a nice guy, but he did not know how to run a basketball team. The Pipers finished with a losing record despite having the same core players as the year before when they were the champions. According to some of the players, at the 1969 ABA draft, their owner was sitting at his table reading from a basketball magazine from 1968, a whole year earlier. So when it was his turn, Gabe Rubin kept trying to draft guys who were already in the league, again, because he was reading from a magazine that was a year old. And then he suddenly decided that he wanted to move his team back to Pittsburgh. Now, in their second stint as the Pittsburgh Pipers, things continued to go downhill. They went through 2 more head coaches, making a total of 6 head coaches in 3 seasons. They also lost Connie Hawkins. After a lawsuit, the NBA decided to reinstate eligibility for Hawkins, so he left the Pipers and joined the Phoenix Suns. And the Pipers finished that 3rd season with a record of 29-55, good for last place in their division. So the owner decided another change was needed. They stayed in Pittsburgh, but he changed the name of the team from the Pittsburgh Pipers to the Pittsburgh Condors. Like that was going to do it. Now, they just caused more confusion for the fans. Many thought that it was actually a brand new team, but they soon realized that it was the same old losing team from the year before. And the team hired yet another coach, Jack McMahon, and he actually lasted the entire season, but the Condors could not climb out of the cellar. And then things really got weird when they brought in John Brisker as their new leading scorer. This guy was a real character. He loved to fight, and he always kept a firearm with him. And then one year, he just disappeared. And the rumors were that he had become a bodyguard for Ugandan dictator Idi Amin. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. By the time the 5th and final season of the Condors came around, the team was having some serious money problems. The main problem was that they didn't have any. The team kept getting its phone lines cut because they were not paying the bills. They would just open up a new phone line under a new account, and they were not paying the rent on their arena either. That caused them to go in search of new arenas, and they actually played home games in places like Arizona and Alabama. They would play their game and then leave town without paying the rent. You can see what is happening here, and it got really bad. At this point, the ABA had no choice but to force the team to fold and cease operations. Even by ABA standards, this was ridiculous. In all, the team played just 5 seasons of ABA basketball, and they had 3 different names. They relocated twice, and they went through 8 head coaches at 3 losing seasons. But in the end, they still won a championship trophy, the first one in ABA history, so they will always have that as a memory, that they were the original ABA champions. Well, that does it for today's story on the lost teams of the ABA. This was a story of the Pittsburgh Pipers / Minnesota Pipers / Pittsburgh Pipers again / Pittsburgh Condors. Join us next time when we share the story of Dave Stallworth from the 1970 NBA champion New York Knicks. It was a miracle that he was even on that team. This story will focus on his return to basketball after suffering a heart attack 2 years earlier. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of sports yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I will also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care, and see you soon.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.